We now have our first official track from the National Hurricane Center of what is now potential tropical cyclone 4. When this does get named, it will be called Debby. Now, they put these out so we can issue these warnings well ahead of that storm coming on shore, even if it's not quite formed up yet. And right now, still disorganized out here over Cuba, but based on all the information we have at this time, it does look like this is going to be named as we go ahead into Saturday, passing just off the southwest coast of Florida and then skirting the coastline, becoming a tropical storm as it nears Tampa and eventually moving across the first coast as we go ahead into Sunday night through Monday morning, being a big rainmaker, but we could be looking even at other impacts as well. So let's break this down on our now potential tropical cyclone 4. Well, at this time, we do have tropical storm warnings in place across the southwest coast of Florida, a tropical storm watch across the Florida Keys extending all the way up towards Tampa Bay as well. This indicates that potential for tropical system impacts over the next 48 hours, but that warning does look like we could at least see those tropical storm strength winds across parts of southwestern Florida, and do expect these to all change over the course of your Friday heading into Saturday morning. So you want to continue to check back in for the latest updates that are issued. As far as impacts on the first coast and the general overall of this storm system, well, it likely is going to be named this weekend. We're already seeing that here with that potential tropical cyclone. Expect widespread rainfall across the state of Florida, especially Sunday night into Monday morning. But that intensity forecast still remains uncertain. There's low confidence. Of course, the track currently shows a tropical storm, but the longer it lingers over the Gulf of Mexico in those very warm waters, the higher chance it could even strengthen higher than that. So, of course, once again, you want to continue to track back in for updates. Why is it not named yet? Of course, we know it's heading off here and we know it's heading to an area favorable for development, but it is also moving over Cuba after it just moved over Hispaniola. That really has disrupted this center of circulation, just shredding it apart. Thus, as it continues to move over Cuba, it's really going to have a hard time for that machine, that organization in the low-level center to get its act together. But once it reemerges here into the Florida Straits, do expect that to tighten up fairly quickly. Sea surface temperatures out here are exceptionally warm. In fact, into the 90s in spots. So it definitely is warm enough for this to strengthen up pretty quickly. The longer it lingers, though, and based on the current forecast track, kind of in the middle of these model consensus, some keep it offshore. If it stays offshore, the higher that intensity it could be and the stronger it could get as it heads off towards the Big Bend area. If it makes a right-hand turn, even by the course of about 50 to 100 miles, makes a big difference because it gets cut off from that warm water, brings heavy rainfall across the state of Florida, but less as far as a wind impact or even a tornadic threat as well. But really, this is why you still have some uncertainty, and it all goes back to how this reemerges after it passes over Cuba and where exactly that low-level center is going to be. So we would love to say, exactly where it's going to be and what those impacts are, but just trying to break down the variabilities and the different aspects of this storm that we see at this time. But let's take a look at some of our high-resolution guidance. This is our in-house model showing our system wrap up here off of the coast of Southwest Florida, where you currently have those warnings and watches in place as it kicks off here, passing towards Tampa on our Sunday afternoon through the evening. Remember, the right side of the storm, the dirty side, that's where you not only have heavy rainfall, but also looking at that potential for tornadoes as well. So especially Sunday night into Monday morning on the first coast, you want to continue to make sure you have a way to be alerted just in case that potential is there. As far as the rainfall is concerned, yeah, plenty of it, 3 to 5 inches across the first coast. If your yard is looking rough, you're going to get a lot of rain here, but we want to watch out for that localized flooding as well. Here on the first coast, we do a weather impact alert issued for Sunday heading into Monday. Obviously, there could be some impacts if you have planned Sunday evening through your morning commute on Monday, where I do anticipate the highest impacts, but that exact timing, once again, I got to go back to, we got to wait to see exactly where this forms up and where it goes and how it interacts with this trough towards the north, a high pressure ridge towards the west, and another high pressure ridge towards the east. It would be called Debby, though, once it is named. Our last name was Chris, and of course, we can't forget about Beryl. Remember that record-breaking storm back in June. On a completely separate note, just because we're talking about the tropics, we do have a hurricane out in the eastern Pacific. You might see alerts issued on that. That is a fish storm. nowhere near the first coast or the east coast of the United States. But just something, don't confuse that with potential Debby. This is in the eastern Pacific. Of course, we're going to keep you posted on this storm and our potential tropical cyclone on Hurricane Central at firstcoastnews.com and on First Coast News throughout the upcoming weekend. I'm meteorologist Robert Spetta.